Rowe.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Hug.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Melton.
Here.
Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the pledge and remarks by Councilman Hug.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated, please. Well, here we are again, October 1st. We thought we'd have had two of them in 1 year. October being Latino Heritage Month, as well as Italian Heritage Month as well. But more significant is the 100th birthday of our president, former President Jimmy Carter. So happy birthday, President Carter, and I'm done.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today, and we look forward to hearing your remarks on our many items. I would encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate. If you have any challenges hearing the proceedings today, you can see our attendant with the Building Commission here for a listening device, or we also do have closed captioning in the back of the room if that's helpful to you. We'll start our day-to-day before continuing to the regular agenda with a proclamation by Councilmember Johnson recognizing Black Maternal Health Month.
Do we have anyone here that's representing that organization in the audience? Oh, okay, so I will go ahead and provide this to the organization. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
Item 6, to consider a Class C liquor license for Pizza West, located at 12301 West Maple Road.
The public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please. Anyone here on number 6? Yeah, please come down. Sorry. That's all right. Your name and address?
Holly Purcell, 12301 West Maple Road, Omaha.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Thanks. I'm going to move to approve this with just a comment. I absolutely love your pizza, and your gluten-free pizza is the best in town. So I really appreciate it.
Perfect. I'll make sure that we don't make any changes to that for
Right,
you then.
yeah, thank you.
And a motion should include waiving Rule 7.
Motion to approve waiving Rule 7.
There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
Yes.
Hug.
Yes.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Secura Banana, located at 7425 Dodge Street, Suite 105.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Jay Hendrickson, 2631 North 125th Circle.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 8, to consider a Class D liquor license for NP Mart, located at 2302 South 20th Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. Proponents, please.
Afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council, David Houghton, 2804 South 87th Ave. On behalf of the applicant Martha Street Petroleum LLC, which will be doing business as NP Mart, will be located at 2302 South 20th Street, requesting a Class D liquor license. The current licensee has a Class C liquor license. If the council members have any questions, we'd be happy to address them. The general manager is in attendance today. If you have any specific questions about the business, the hours of operation will be 6 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I have the general manager come up? Hi. What was your name?
My name's Ann Gordon.
Ann. Well, thanks for being down here, Ann. I don't really have a lot of questions about the liquor license, but I thought since you were here, I'd ask some questions about other parts of your business.
Sure.
And if I'm out of line, Mr. President, just let me know. But I was at a conference last week, and one of the presenters was talking about the problem with vaping that's going on in the country. And I was on your website over the weekend just trying to understand your business, and I saw that you have a pretty large inventory of vape products in the store. And the thing that I think came out of the conference that I attended was the number of illegal products that are coming into the country. And so my question to you was, what kind of due diligence do you do with your distributors to determine if the product that you're buying to sell truly is legit, or if it's
Well,
illegal, or if it's coming in
We're
from bad
very,
sources?
very diligent with them. We buy local. We buy from Maverick, where all of our vendors are local.
Okay.
They don't carry, we don't even go close to the gray area on anything above and remotely close and beyond of what we should legally carry. It's popular. The college kids, it's popular. I mean, we are diligent with the IDs. We scan every ID. We don't, the website, of course, it represents. But other than that, we stick to the laws.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to hear, was
Okay.
that you were
Oh, yeah.
aware that you were taking precautions, that
Oh, yeah.
that
It's huge.
there really
but-
is an issue across the country with
I know.
product coming from other
Okay.
countries. China, I think, is the biggest distributor, and we don't know what product is in the
Yeah, we
cartridge.
don't either. That's the thing. The regulations aren't there, so we stick local. We
Okay.
buy local, we buy what's approved.
Okay, appreciate that. I just wanted to clarify
No,
that,
that's
just to
fair
make sure
enough.
that you're
Anything else?
doing diligent. That's all I had for today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to mine. I'm sorry. Come on back up. I apologize.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, this isn't the only property you own or you can manage.
No, this will be the 27th store in Nebraska. We're very popular.
And if my memory serves me correct, you have one at like 46 and L Street?
4420L, yes.
Okay, and then you recently acquired the one at 29th and Leavenworth?
Freddy's Friend
Fred's, yeah.
Service, we sure did. We're
Yeah.
in the remodeling now. We broke ground for the remodeling 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know.
That's us. Yeah, I've worked for them for 12 years, and I've watched every store open, so
Okay, great, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I don't see any further lights. Is there a
Motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 9, to consider a special designated liquor license application for the Broke Down Palace located at 8805 Maple Street for an outdoor concert on October 10th through 12th from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. with music ending at midnight each night.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. President, council members. My name is Ross Coley, 329 Frank Street, Council Bluffs, 51503. Here to answer any questions. I do want to clarify one thing I saw in here. October 10th through the 12th, music will be at, 10 p.m. on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday would be midnight for our request. Just with it being a school night, I just want to clarify that with the council.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. All right. Any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Madam Clerk, is that something we need to specify in the motion, or is that clarified in the paperwork or on testimony?
I'll make the motion to approve. So I'll do a motion to approve with, as you stated, music ending at 10 p.m. on Thursday and at midnight on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, that's our request today.
Thank you.
We will. Yep. Yep, we will. Is that good? Yep. Okay.
There's a motion, a second, and I'll support that too. It being in my district, you guys do a great job there. And I'll also acknowledge Ross at a recent event, raised a couple $1,000s for tornado relief for what happened in Elkhorn. So I appreciated that night, and you guys did a great job with it.
We appreciate your support and your time and the whole band's volunteering that night. I thought it was a really fun way to generate some cash for a really great cause. And whenever you want to do it again, it's an open door.
All right.
So
I'm still healing from tree debris pickup. But
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
sometime soon.
It'll heal up fine. Whenever you're ready.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
There's a motion, a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe, Bagley, Harding, Hug, Johnson, Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you for your stewardship. It's very appreciated.
Thanks. See you soon. Council members, without objection, we do have folks here that were here to hear the proclamation on Black Maternal Health Month. If Councilmember Johnson is willing to revisit the proclamation she has, we'll call those folks down to receive it. Please come on down. Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good. Thank you. We're here today. Thank you guys for coming to honor and recognize the Black Maternity Health Month for the month of October. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So whereas Black women experience maternal health symptoms at nearly twice the rate of all women, but up to half of Black mothers do not receive any support or treatment. And whereas Black women living in areas of high poverty have an increased likelihood of inadequate prenatal care and lack access to safe and secure housing, affordable transportation, and affordable healthy food. And whereas multiple factors including discriminatory treatment from providers limiting access to quality care and broad inequities in health lead to complication during pregnancy and contribute to Black infants having a higher rate of death during birth. And whereas Black Maternal Health Month is a time to raise awareness about how maternal mortality affects the Black community and urges Black healthcare reform, as no woman should ever die from a pregnancy-related complication. And whereas we can deepen the conversations about Black maternal health in our community and amplify community-driven research, policy, and care solutions while centering the voices of Black mothers, women, and families. And whereas the Black Maternal Health Month is a time for action in which communities are encouraged to commit to equality of care for Black women, assuring them of their dignity and well-being before, during, and after pregnancy. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Omaha, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Black Maternal Health Month. Thank you.
Would you like to offer any remarks about your organization or what you have planned for this month?
Sure. We just want to start out by thanking you guys for your support. in this endeavor. My name is Sydney Shedd, and my team members Charmaine and Ebony are here with me in lieu of our ED, Ashley Spivey. We have a number of events this month, including a community baby shower. We're having some community education on hypertension and pregnancy, as well as a wellness career pathways fair for young people aged 14 to 25. That'll be this month as well. So there's plenty of information about that on our website for folks to get engaged and be involved. We're also having a webinar learning series on Thursdays this month, so folks can engage in some learning opportunities over lunch virtually as well about maternal health outcomes and other things that are being done throughout the country. So we thank you all again.
Great. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Question real quick. Hold on. Where could people donate? You said you were having a baby shower. Where could people donate brand new baby items for the baby shower?
Sure.
Is there a donation place?
Well, we have our Anarcha Center that's at 2306 North 24th Street. And if you wanted to drop items off there, usually we do have staff on site, or I could share my email and folks could just reach out and we could coordinate something.
So I can go on your website and there'll be a contact?
Yeah, there's an
Okay.
email contact there.
We can do that.
Just a general contact form, and then also information if you wanted to do monetary donations as well.
That's great. Thanks for all your work.
The website, ibeblackgirl.com. ibeblackgirl.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Items 10 and 11 can be considered together for Camelot Village 2, Replat 2, located northwest of 90th and Grant Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 10, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate this property into that district. Item 11, a resolution to approve the final plat.
Public hearing and vote on items 10 and 11 are today. Proponents, please.
Kyle Hazy with the ENA Consulting Group, 10909 Mill Valley Road, representing the applicant. I'm making myself available for any questions council may have today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson stepped out. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Items 12 through 17 can be considered together for Saddle Creek Campus, located southwest of Farnham Street and Saddle Creek Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 12 through 14, ordinances to rezone this property from GI District, GO District, GC District, and CC District to TOD1 MX District, TOD2 MX District, and CC District. Item 15, an ordinance to rescind the ACI Overlay District. Item 16, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 17, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and vote on items 12 through 17 are today. Proponents, please.
Ryan Lawson with UNMC 10423 M Street.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I think I'm opposed to each and every one of the items up through 17. All I can tell you is what it appears like to citizens that do not have the time to do hours and hours of homework, reading your stuff, trying to understand it. But this looks like you're setting up a whole nother city for UNO, University of Nebraska. Right in the middle of bike paths, bus paths, metro paths, the big bus things, and there's really not enough room for all of this. And quite frankly, I don't think you solved the water drainage problem yet. but you're already covering it up with new concrete and disrupting traffic. Doesn't the university have enough room in Lincoln and over by Memorial Park to create another campus for them? If that's not the case, then change the wording. And by the way, the rules didn't permit me time enough to read these and get signed in. So I forgot to put these items on the form. I hope you'll forgive me for that. But that's a ridiculous waste of everybody's time because you've got microphones, you've got videos, and you've got secretaries. So why do you need me to sign in to tell you what items I might want to speak on before I even get here? That's maybe why there aren't many citizens here. So you need to change that, whoever decided to do that. Transit-oriented, bicycles, skateboards, rented bikes, electric bikes, trolleys, streetcars, and megabuses. Not going to work. And community commercial district, well, that's fine. We had a commercial district there to start with. Civic importance, well, to who? The university, professional people that make a lot more money than I do, real estate people that are also developers that get a pretty good break with TIF and whatever all that actually is. University Board of Regents, yeah, okay. University Medical Center, okay. But how does all that serve patients? This is not really about patients, it's more about the boys with the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearings are closed.
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you all.
Items 18 through 23 can be considered together for Kiewit subdivision, replat 1, located southeast of 27th and Leavenworth Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 18, an ordinance to rezone this property from R7 District and GC District to TOD2 MX District. Item 19, an ordinance to approve a PUR overlay district. Item 20, an ordinance to rescind the PK overlay district. Item 21, an ordinance to rescind the ACI 1 overlay district. Items 22 and 23 are resolutions to approve the preliminary plat and final plat.
Public hearing and vote on items 18 through 23 are today. Proponents, please.
Tom McClay, 5200 Webster Street, here on behalf of the development team, myself, Clarity Development Company, as well as we're working with a surety insurance out of Lincoln. Excited to bring some really high quality apartment development, multifamily, into this Columbus Park neighborhood, and happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Mr. President, Mr. McClay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilman
Thanks
Bagley.
for coming down. Columbus Park Neighborhood Association, did you do some outreach to the neighbors?
I did. I spoke with your recommendation. The Neighborhood Association doesn't have any regular meetings. They haven't for a number of years since the COVID. I did speak with the president of the Neighborhood Association at length, Frank Nanfito. Spoke with another gentleman he recommended that had been on the board. I also had spoke with all the immediate neighbors of St. Peter's Church, being one of them, who was excited about the prospects of some maybe new parishioners, as well as folks to the north and to the east. I also spoke with the Lutheran Church, where they used to have the neighborhood association meetings, to see if there was any other ancillary meetings that might happen, and they indicated there wasn't, but I did give them some indication. I believe it's the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, but I could be wrong on that name. And I really just tried to make sure anyone I could reach out to, talk with. There was two folks at the planning board, neighbors that I did speak with after the planning board meeting, and did my best to get out when there's maybe not as regimented of a neighborhood association there.
I appreciate you doing that, and I know you and I have had several conversations on your proposed development here. And how long has this been, that's been just dirt for a number of years, as far as I can remember.
So we started assembling this land almost 10 years ago. It's been kind of parcel by parcel. It's about 1.6 acres in total. And have been trying to figure out kind of the right, best, highest use for it, and are now really kind of excited at this point in time for what we think is an exciting part for this neighborhood at this point.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate again the outreach you did and the communication. I'll make a motion to support these today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Tom, just a couple questions too. So this site was previously actually approved for a different project, right? That it included affordable housing, or affordable units, I should say?
It was. We had been working on that previously. That project really suffered at interest rate increases, which we've all probably heard about in the business press for the last couple of years. That 200 plus increase in interest rate, 200 bips, 2 percentages increase, made the tax credits unviable. And then really construction pricing, as you guys have probably heard from a lot of developers and others, have exponentially increased from the inception of that project about 3 years ago. So it just, we couldn't make it work. The tax credits as well have become much more competitive than they were in the past. We did a series of projects that you all have probably seen through the years, from Aspen Grove at 96 and Blair High Road to 30 Metro at 30th and Fort. Developed those and part of the development there. Those are all, were done with what's called 4% low-income housing tax credits, which were not nearly as competitive back then as they are now. It's becoming very, very difficult to make affordable housing tax credits or low-income housing tax credits. Same thing, different name, but they're both Section 42 of the federal tax code.
Thanks. And that's why I asked. I wanted to use this as an example of how it is challenging to pull off projects now that include affordable housing for interest rate reasons, for state tax credit reasons, and financing in general. And I just think that's something we really need to focus on as a city and a city council, up and above what you're doing here today, which I support. But we need to find a way to make that easier and to make those kind of projects happen. And then the other question I got about the new project we're talking about here today is the parking. Do you feel parking is sufficient for what you're accomplishing here, both interior to the building and also in the surrounding area?
Yeah, so pretty much almost the entire first floor of this building is all parking. A very large garage on the inside. There is a small historic building that was there, and maybe I can illuminate a little bit more on some of the history here. Is this?
Yeah, let's push it up all the way.
Is this?
There it goes.
Oh, there we go. So this was actually what was originally at this site. It was called the Alameda Dairy. It was built about the turn of the 20th century, so around 1900-ish, and was there for 70 years almost. That was present. It was demolished in the late 70s, early 80s. We have unfortunately found that demolition technique back then was just knock all of the walls into the basement and cover it up with dirt. So that is a challenge that we're going to have as we excavate this site. There was a small, you'll see here on the left side as I'm viewing it of this, is a little warehouse. It was a cold storage warehouse portion that actually still stands. We are going to retain that and just to kind of add to the historic nature of the building. This is not a little big for it, but you can see there in this rendering of the east side of the building, we're going to retain that and actually continue to utilize it for parking, which is what it's been utilized for since the Alameda Dairy was around. They instead of cars, they used to have, well, these were cars, I guess. They were a little bit different looking cars. Some of them had horses attached to them. Continue to use it for that. So both the new structural building plus the historic structure that was there, as well as contiguous parking there. So with that, I do think it is sufficient. From our standpoint, we're investing a lot in the belief that our residents will be satisfied with the parking. There is a bus line. There will continue to be a stop that is there presently. We've worked with Metro to facilitate the continuance of that stop right on the Leavenworth, right immediately in front of this building. It's between 26th and 27th is where the stop is on the south side of Leavenworth. And we are in the zone of influence of the streetcar. This is the very edge. This is the southern edge of the zone of influence from the Harney Street line that will run down Harney and have a stop at 26th and Harney of coming this direction. So, all of that, we do have bicycle allocation as well. We do have places for bicycle lockers and the like. So I think a long-winded answer to your question, Pete, Councilman Festerson, I should say, is yes, we do believe the parking is sufficient. And we're putting a lot of time, treasure, and talent with the belief that it will be.
Good. Just no horses, right?
What's that? No,
just no horses. Right?
No, no horses that I'm aware of.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yes. Mr. McClay, can you help me out with what would be the least amount for rent and the highest? Can you give me some basis for that? Because as you know, this buzzword that we have in the Omaha area, affordable housing, has a lot of layers to it. So can you help me out with identifying what that might be?
So I will give you a range. I think our lowest is about 900 for the studios. Of course, this is going to take us a while, so there are increases in rent. So it might push up higher, and we might have already provided information that's higher than that. So I don't want to misspeak or mislead you. That's around that number. That would be a studio unit on the smaller side of things. What I will say, and what maybe doesn't get enough attention, in my opinion, in the discussion of affordable housing, is the effect that the increase in supply of market rate housing has on bringing prices down overall. And it's really macroeconomics 101. Right. If there is a bigger supply of something, in this case apartments in particular, that will bring the pricing down for the demand. And so if we do not produce market rate housing, you're going to constrict the supply and the demand will continue to increase. So there's been a lot of studies done by a number of publications and institutes that study it, that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15% lower of housing costs by just creating market housing on what is which sometimes people call organic affordable housing that had been built a year or 10 years ago, that naturally starts to come down, relatively speaking, in rent because inflation happens. And particularly in the last few years when we've been having almost double-digit inflation, the relative affordability of apartments at 900 or so is really good, relatively speaking.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further lights. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Aye. Harding. Yes. Hug. Yes. Johnson. Melton. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Item 24, a resolution to approve the Central Park Plaza, the Duo Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 222 South 15th and 201 South 16th Streets in an amount up to $26,449,080. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 24 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Bridget Hadley, City Planning. Before you is the TIF redevelopment project plan for the Central Park Towers, now known as the Duo Apartments. And they are, you can see them outlined in blue on this aerial map. Adjacent to Douglas Street here on the north, 15th Street to the east, Farnham Street to the south, and then 16th Street to the west. Here is a visual. Zoom out. Of a potential visual of the finished product. I think it'll probably be very, very close to that. And then I want to get to this site plan just to have it in front of you. Oops, this way. So this project has been in the news. You've heard a lot about it. Again, it proposes to completely convert these two towers into apartments, about 557 market rate apartments, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And then the west side of this project site, this will become a new apartments above a new city-owned parking garage. And there will be about 150 apartments there. Below the existing is about 16,000 square foot of commercial spaces being rehabilitated. So this entire block is going to look quite a bit new once this is completed. I think it's going to take maybe about 3 years, 2-3 years for completion. The TIF committee has already given their approval. Planning board approved it in August for up to about 26.4 million in TIF. Excuse me, in TIF. The project is located in the urban core housing and mobility redevelopment plan area, the streetcar district in particular. So it will contribute to the streetcar funding. Beyond that, I think I will turn it over to the owners and development team is here to answer any further questions. And with that, we certainly do ask for your approval.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Yeah, Todd Heaston, New Style Development, 2223 Dodge Street.
Greg Rothermel, New Style Development, 2223 Dodge Street.
Just here to answer any questions you might have on the project, and it's coming along, moving right along. We're trying to stay on schedule a little bit, but we've been, as you know, it takes a little bit to get things rolling, so we're getting close. So.
Okay, good, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Young man, how are you? Did your dad? I started out with Mr. Dugdale back in the 60s.
Hey, Donnie.
Donnie, yes, sir.
You have to address
Donnie
us.
R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation, 4928 North 52nd Street. I wanted to ask this question to the council, because in our engineering program in high school, and we had this debate, should we keep the Flatiron building downtown or redevelop because of the Flatiron is one of the, what is it, when they put it at the Flatiron, you can't tear it down, what is that called? It's the Flatiron.
We're not talking about the Flatiron.
Yeah, but these buildings that I've been seeing, are we gonna, they, on our programs, I noticed all the roofs are flat like the Flatiron. And we had decided they had to angle under our engineering program because of Nebraska weather, because all that snow gonna get on top, and then all those folks it's gonna collapse. So are they changing the engineering program, or do I need to go back to school, young man? I'm not sure about that.
Thank you. Any other opponents today?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, 68132. I am generally always against TIF because I don't understand how it actually works. Maybe these gentlemen can explain it to us from their standpoint, because your explanations don't really clear it up much. I remember when we blew up most of those buildings downtown there that you're now trying to reconstruct with apartments that could have been used. But anyway, this nice big building at the end of the park maybe is in the way of mutual development. But I don't quite understand why it has to be completely redeveloped, completely rehabilitated. Another big parking garage. For who? People are supposed to be riding the buses. But what is meant by the city's participation? The city basically means me, I think, taxpayers, but also rent payers because it gets passed on to them. So in one way or another, it goes out of the citizens' pockets. It's my impression, it sounds like, appears like, developers, who are sometimes also real estate people, get to acquire a property that's maybe been blighted, almost down to zero value for current property tax, which they pay over 20 years or 15, which keeps changing, but then promise to recover all that money after that 15 or 20-year period from them. I don't know about that. Most of those people would probably be moved out of town by then. So it's left to who? The taxpayers and the people that walk around downtown. We don't really understand what ad valorem taxes are. Would you please explain that? This is not the fault of the developers or the real estate people. This is the fault of you people because you don't make it clear to the citizens. We might be in favor of a lot more of it if we understood it better. But no, you guys don't like to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Hi, I think this is a really good investment to the area. And the city's participation in assisting with this is also a good choice. But as you are aware, this also is in District 2, and as the city council representative for this area, there are some things that I would like to discuss just so constituents in the area are clear about what we're doing here today. First, when did this project begin?
So we started doing, in order to get the permanent plans figured out, we had to do some demolition with inside to try to figure out what all is possible and the structures of things, even though we have good plans. We ended up starting to do that in about, it's right after planning board passed it. We've been trying to get our development agreement going here, and we will be working still with Walker Consultants, and they've been trying to get their consulting contract put together with the city. So it's really delayed this project to bring to you for the last about 3 months.
So again, approximately
about August, yeah,
of,
July, August, yes.
Of last year?
Of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't purchase this until May.
Okay, and about when will this project be completed, do you know?
So it's in 2 phases. It was about 70%. Basically, it's 30% occupied. So we took those 30%, consolidated, put them in the North Tower, and a lot of those people won't be moving out until June of 2026. And so we're doing the South Tower first, and then phase 2 will be the North Tower and the parking garage. So call it September of 2027, it'll be totally completed.
So were there any individuals that were displaced at all?
We offered them a chance to either move in the North Tower or they could get out of their lease. Some of them wanted to get out of their lease, or the leases were ending, but everybody else moved to the North Tower. So yes, nobody's been displaced.
Okay, and then if you could help me out with clarification, there is no efficiency apartments that will be in this building, or is that correct?
We do not have any official low-income housing. units. We do have about 10% would qualify for 60% if we went that direction. And as previous Tom McClay was, the tax credits are so hard to get and so rare, and on a big project like this, it just doesn't work. And so we are able to keep a percentage under 60%, even though it won't be a requirement to do that. And then there's actually a big percentage that will be under the 80%, kind of that missing middle, and which is a lot of our service people downtown, waiters, waitresses, people like that. So we feel it's a really good add to the downtown area.
So you said that 10% would be, or you're considering or thinking?
Would qualify, the rent levels would qualify. So in other words, right now, and I haven't looked recently since they changed in June, but it's, believe it or not, considered 60% of the median income. Affordability is considered about $1,100, which sounds crazy. And so a lot of these units will be priced below that. So actually priced under the 60% of the median income.
And that's going to be about 10%
Yes.
that would be occupied with that?
Correct. Those people, they don't have to make that underneath, they won't be qualifying to do that, but the rents will be considered affordable for that range.
Okay.
It gets confusing on projects like this because you're not required to do that, but we push to keep the rents kind of a big range of rents, and it seems to work well for our projects.
Okay, and then can you talk a little bit about security and things like there's going to be opportunities for jobs or things of that nature?
Yes. So we are, and we've got a permit here this last month, and we're starting to move forward fast. The opportunity for jobs, we are still bidding out some of the smaller projects, and we always have that as an open bid. Many of the bigger pieces we do design build on buildings like this because so many people, they rehab buildings like this to say turn these old office buildings into apartments is kind of a specialty, and a lot of people don't want to touch them. And so we end up doing a lot of construction design build where you pull in your plumbers or electricians in early on to help design and meet the criteria. But yeah, we're in the process of doing that and completing things right now.
So you're going to have an open bid for that?
On some of the projects, some of the pieces to the puzzle, yes.
And who is the general contractor for this?
New Style Development. So we actually do the development, we do the general construction, and we do the ownership as well. We keep it long term.
Okay. So you're with New Style, correct?
Yes.
All right. Can you come up? I had a question regarding how you would go about getting subcontractors to help you with completing the heavy lift to complete this project?
Sure. Again, Greg Rothermel with New Style Development. We do a bid process, and so we put these projects out for bid. The project of this scale, there's not a lot of contractors that can do this size of project that have the manpower to do it and the capability, so it does narrow the scope.
Okay, so can you elaborate on that? So will we have any small emerging businesses having an opportunity?
Sure.
And so how does that process, what does that look like?
It's a bid process, so our plan sets are sent out for bid to contractors, and it's basically capability and price are the two main factors that are taken into account.
So will you be using a database? How will you get that information out to subcontractors that this is open for bid?
So it depends on the project. The project like this, we actually have a database. We have a lot of contractors reach out to us when they find out that we purchased a building like this. So we keep a list of all the contractors that reach out to us as well. And we have those running from project to project. So we have a long database of contractors as well.
So if someone in the community wanted to, they're not a part of your list, how would they just reach out to you?
Correct.
Okay. And when are you going to begin taking a list of or calls to do those types of bids?
So most of this project we've bid out a fair amount of this project already.
So there's no work left?
There's some additional scope, correct, yes.
So when will are they able to
It depends on the
contact you?
type of work and the process that we're at. So for instance, there'll be some additional caulking, there'll be some additional IT work, there'll be some access point install, security camera. There's different scopes of work that come as we progress through the project.
So can you and I talk later on,
Sure.
kind of give me a schedule of what that is so that
Sure, love to.
individuals could have an opportunity to participate in that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I still don't really necessarily have an answer to the question regarding the jobs at the end of the day.
The final jobs that are created by the
Yeah.
project. So each of the buildings, apartment buildings that we actually develop and bring online and manage, have a property manager. They have, so a full-time property manager. This one will also have an assistant to the property manager. It'll have this, the size of this will have, actually it could be 2 assistants once all 3 phases are on. It'll have 2 maintenance people. We have IT staff that helps out. We have contractors pretty constantly helping us with projects of this size.
Okay.
And then we have a team that actually helps monitor some of the security cameras and other IT items as well.
So you really won't have any security manpower there.
We have a third party that we hire.
And that third party has already been identified?
Well, we have a third party that typically works for other buildings. They're the probable candidate for this project as well, but they have not been identified yet, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Todd? I think it's fair to point out that New Style's been around for a while.
Yeah, 35 years now, so yeah.
And I think one of your first big projects was the Livestock Exchange Building. Is my memory correct?
Yeah, I mean, that was an eventful one, yes, back in
And that was
2000.
35 years ago.
Well, believe it or not, no, we'd been doing a lot of single-family homes and a lot of smaller ones up until then. And yeah, but livestock was one of the big ones, yes.
So this is no challenge to you. It's a New Style. This is nothing new to New Style. This kind of falls right in line with everything you've done historically.
It does. Actually, this one, because it's a 1982 build, it's actually one of the easier ones because of the structures and the plans you can find compared to like the power plant we did down there, which is, got these 1913, 1930 buildings. You're trying to blend them all together. That was a real challenge. The number of units, I would be worried about it if we hadn't just finished up the Atlas, the old Creighton Hospital, which had 707 units. And that went really smooth. We actually, when we finished that building, we got our last CO on the last floor. We actually were 96% occupied 30 days later. So yeah, these buildings, as we were able to bring on the floors and get about halfway through them, we're able to start leasing out the units, and that really helps, makes a big difference. So you don't have this big splash of all these units coming on the market at once. And I know that worries a lot of people. And it's like if we can just start bringing on, 18 to 20 per month, then that makes a big difference. Really makes us confident as well.
Thanks, Todd.
You bet.
Todd, I was thinking of you recently. I was at a convening of large city council presidents where this was the topic, or one of the topics we discussed. And a lot of cities are struggling to provide housing in their downtown areas. And one of the main points of conversation was conversion of commercial buildings or office buildings into housing, like we're talking about here today. And I know you have other thoughts downtown in that respect too, so I appreciate your interest in that and your investment in Omaha and some of these big-time projects like Mr. Hug was discussing. And this is no small one either. It's another 700 units.
Yeah.
What's the total investment, do you estimate?
About one little over $150 million total. It will
150 million.
Yeah, and to give the city of Omaha its due as well, between the building board review, waivers, things like that, we've been able to do this where a lot of cities struggled. Lincoln years ago came up to Omaha just to try to understand how Omaha was doing it. So between the planning department and everybody, they do make it possible to do these. You know, we've been requested to go to other cities, and we pretty well say, no, we'll just stick around here at home to make it, because it is a very sustainable way of doing things by using these old buildings into apartments, and it makes a huge difference for keeping it friendly for the developers. I'm glad to see that.
So obviously you have a large degree of confidence in our downtown area and our urban core by doing this.
Very
And
much.
I can see it from my window. You've already started the top floors.
We did.
Tell us what's going on the top floors.
So we did, in order to make the building feel, well, for one thing, mutual. You know, that's really what brought this building, taking it from which was a premier office building with mutual blocking things, you know, by going up in front. It really took it to where it's like, and it was a 50-year cycle. It was kind of out. You know, all the utilities, all the interior infrastructure was kind of outdated and time for new. And so that really makes a big difference. The other one, even 7, 8 years ago, we looked at this and it was asked about when it went into foreclosure from a California REIT had it. And it's a triangle shape. It looks really cool, but everybody wants these big 20,000 square floor plates, open office space, where this is just the opposite. It's got that core in the middle, but it makes great apartments because it's got the core in the middle and all the windows all the way around like the old offices used to be. And so you can see on the top, trying to give people, you know, that view of downtown, which seems like that always helps with the apartments. For lease up, we're doing a big community space up on the tops, along with fitness rooms and things like that. So it'll be a nice project when we get all completed.
Yeah. And then I would be interested in talking with you further offline is fine about this discussion point on affordable housing too. That's got to be a critical portion of what we're doing with all these downtown and throughout the community. And your remarks are very similar to Mr. McClay's in terms of the difficulty in financing these projects, the tax credit situation. I think it's something we got to figure out together.
Yes, it is, and it is critical. We do need to keep pushing for that affordable housing downtown. We've tried a couple different approaches, and I keep pushing some of these other developers. They keep helping them along, and we're getting a little bit, but not near what we need.
Good. Thank you, and thanks for your investment. Mr. Bagel, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Heaston, good afternoon. Thanks for coming down today. You and I met in the spring. We played a little phone tag, and I was able to sit down with you, and I shared with you my dad had delivered mail downtown for years, and his office, or his mailroom, was on the north end of that building there. Yeah. So it is nice to see the transformation in the urban core. This is a couple blocks from the district that I represent, but it's downtown, it's the urban core. And I'm glad to support this, the investment you're making in downtown, in our urban core, and for people that need a place to live, that are going to be working as we build our urban core in the years and decades to come. This is a strong commitment that you're making with the city here on, as we just look at the great things Council President Festerson mentioned looking out our windows. I see the same thing, and you kind of touched on what I was going to ask you, but I appreciate you coming down, and again, the time you took to speak to me in the spring to really lay out, to make me comfortable with what your investment was, and I'll be glad to support this today. Thanks for coming down.
And I do want to mention, it is the streetcar, and I know that's really put you guys out there, but it is the streetcar that is the reason we're doing this building. Without that streetcar going by there, we would not probably be making this kind of an investment. So I do very appreciate the piece that you guys, of the puzzle that was kind of missing downtown here, and that's going to make a huge difference. And it will be these TIF dollars that will pay for that infrastructure that you know, yes, it takes 15 years, 20 years to pay for, but eventually it's paid for, and the tax dollars do come back to the city coffers. So it's a huge investment long term, but it works.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion? There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe, Bagley, Harding, Hug, Johnson, Melton. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearing on agenda item number 25 was held on September 24th. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe, Bagley, Harding, Hug, Johnson, Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 26 through 33 are today. If you wish to address the city council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. These are items 26 through 33.
Larry Storr, 5115 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. These might be possibly necessary, but I'm against them because I'd like to know how this works in with current events on the street, late night, early morning, the murder rate, et cetera, and programs through justice reform, such as sending them back home, even if they've been arrested,
There you have to address
detained a number
You're
of
not
times.
addressing these items on the agenda.
Well, excuse Project Safe Neighborhood. Pete, I live in Dundee,
What
and
number,
I see this.
what number are you addressing, Larry?
I see stuff creeping towards me from Saddle Creek Road,
You're
okay?
not addressing these
I'd like to
items.
know what federal dollars that come out of my pocket mean when you say Project
addressing
Safe
these items,
Neighborhood.
you're off topic.
Whose neighborhood, sir?
You're off topic.
Yeah. And how does the police use it? Thank you.
Any other testifiers on these items? And they must be to these items, as always. Seeing none, public hearings are closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe, Bagley, Harding, Hug, Johnson, Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 34, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to mixed-use district development agreement for West Point located at 15504 Spalding Plaza to allow a kennel as a permitted use. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend denial. B is an amendment requested by Councilmember Melton.
Council members, this item was postponed from the September 10th meeting. Public hearing was already held. Vote can be today. There's been an amendment requested. Would you like to address that?
Yes, I'd like to address that, and Mr. Reinhardt has come back up, the owner of Dogtopia. And so I appreciate you coming back. I know you sat through a really long council meeting last time, and you've come back. But we did draft an amendment to the development agreement that you have agreed to. The city attorney has sent it so that if we approve this today, you've agreed that this change in this allowance will only apply to you. So if you sell the business or the building, this isn't going to stay with the property. It's going to just stay with you. It's similar to what in our special use permits. We'll do that because we want to trust that the person who we kind of made this exception for, because they're a good owner and they're doing things right, and you have agreed to that. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
Reinhardt?
that's correct.
Okay, so what I would like to do is make a motion to amend. I don't want to repeat everything that we already repeated before, but I do think this is a very unique circumstance. I don't normally vote against a planning board denial, and this has nothing to do with my trust in the planning board or our planning department, Mr. Fanslight. I just feel that there's an exception that needs to be made for your business, small businesses that run on a very small profit margin. I've heard from tons of your customers that absolutely love using your business, and I think this is something that has gone on for about 17 years. You weren't the original builder or owner, so in all honesty, you're an innocent person in this situation. So I do think, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. Reinhardt, I hope that moving forward, as the planning department is forming our new master plan. You can go online, Mr. Fanslow, where can you go to fill out the survey and make suggestions to the planning, to the new master plan?
Sure, that link can be, Dave Fanslow, City Planning. That link can be found on our website, and the link is there. If you want to go straight to the website, it's wemakeomaha.com.
wemakeomaha.com, because I think this is a new business that wasn't around in our last master plan, and I would like to explore maybe how we redefine kennels and groomers for pets, and that this might be maybe something new that we could include in our new master plan for purposes of zoning, and I hope you'll be a part of that process.
Yeah, definitely could. Yep, there's 2 levels to it now. It's just missing that middle level. That's about it in certain zoning areas, but otherwise the rules are good, and just missing that middle ground of being able to let the pets go to the bathroom outside. I mean, a lot of veterinarians have dogs come in and they can't technically go outside without this kind of use.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and so I am making a motion to amend, and we have I think the clerk has it on file. Okay. With that, I'll make the motion to approve. Motion to approve the amendment.
There's a motion, a second on the amendment, and procedurally, it's a vote on the amendment and then the item itself.
Correct.
Just so council members know. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Festerson. Derek, thanks for coming down again.
You're welcome.
A couple of follow-up questions that I had asked earlier. One was, when you purchased the business, I think, before you purchased the building, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then when you purchased the building, I assume you got a title commitment and reviewed that to see were there any exceptions in the title commitment that said whether the business was allowed in that zoning classification or not?
I get title commitments. To be honest, I don't really look at them. I just trust that they've reviewed everything, but I don't even know if that is included, that they do a background search on the businesses. Like I said, I've never reviewed them, so I don't know if the business uses would be included in a title search.
Okay, so when I asked that like a month or so ago, you didn't go back to look at that?
Oh,
to see?
no,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Did you communicate with others in the mixed-use development what you were doing? I'm assuming they got the notification because of the change in zoning originally, but if you had any communication or conversations with the others in the mixed-use development area?
I did not. Like we said before, the business has been there for a long time, so everybody knows it's a dog place and it's been there. The businesses that are there in that area have been there for probably just as long, and so I just didn't do that. No.
Okay. And then one thing that the city does not get involved in is covenants and restrictions. Are there any CC&Rs that you have to deal with within that mixed-use area as it relates to the use?
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. There was a motion, a second on the amendment. Roll call.
Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Aye. Harding. No. Hug. Yes. Johnson is absent. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1.
Motion to approve as amended.
There's a motion to approve as amended. Roll call.
Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Aye. Harding. No. Hug. Yes. Johnson is absent. Melton.
Yes.
Mr. President.
No.
Motion passed 4-2.
Thank you for coming back down.
Thank y'all.
Item 35, an ordinance to amend special levy ordinance number 10367, levying a special tax and assessment to cover the cost of clearing snow and ice from sidewalks in district number SWSR 2024-01.
The public hearing on number 35 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents?
Good afternoon, City Council, Omaha, Nebraska. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. On this snow removal, number 34, no?
35.
Or 35, excuse me. Is the Flatiron building a part of that? Because we had a problem of getting rid of it, and we can get rid of it now.
Donnie, nope. You're off
okay.
topic. Any other opponents to number 35? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Item 36, an ordinance to approve an amendment to a grant award contract with the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources for the Combined Sewer Overflow Program.
Public hearing on number 36 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 37, an ordinance to acquire private property for the property located at 2307 N Street for the construction of city-owned parking garage.
Public hearing on number 37 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents?
Good afternoon, Council. Joyce Vondrasek, 619 South 37th Street. Just another constructive criticism, not really opposed to this project. I don't hate cars. We have to build parking garages sometimes. On my shirt, you will see an image from the 2010 Beltway study, which proposed that in 2010, Omaha was dense enough already along several corridors throughout the city to build train infrastructure, commuter train infrastructure, including along either 13th or 24th Street over here on East Omaha. I just want to politely suggest that if we properly invested in mass transit, public mass transit on a widespread scale across the city, we could save a little bit of money on parking garages and parking infrastructure in places if thousands upon thousands of people were able to travel down 24th Street to come to some event that was going on in South Omaha instead of just building parking garages for the rest of the time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Item 38, an ordinance to approve an agreement with StreetScan USA, Inc. for the purchase of software products to be utilized by the Capital Construction and Street Maintenance Division.
The public hearing on number 38 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Begley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Austin, a couple questions for you, please.
Austin Rouser, Public Works.
Austin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We talked a little bit about this in pre-council. Can you just kind of walk us through what this will do for the city and for your team in Public Works?
Sure. Yes, we have a 5,000 lane mile street system, and we do evaluations on that. It helps in our asset management, and we're working towards a more targeted approach to street repairs in the Street Preservation Bond Program, which is our panel repair and residential resurfacing program. We currently have some embedded staff that work for consultants that help us in this effort, that do a visual inspection of the streets and a visual rating that helps us get that information. This is a software package that can essentially replace that embedded staff, where through the use of technology, camera, AI, we can get condition ratings that are more accurate. They're less subjective than what we get with a human eye, and we can, in a more timely fashion, we can rate the city's street system. So this has, replacing a consultant contract with a software package has an ROI less than the term of the software package that's in here. We have a 3-year package in here. It's about 2 to 2.5 year ROI by replacing the other contract, and we can also get more frequent inspections of those streets as well. So we'll have really a fuller, more real-time assessment of our streets that we can build projects off of.
So this will help your team identify resurfacing or other road issues, or even, is it sidewalks as well?
It's just streets.
It's just streets, okay. And how about curbs?
It will do a curb rating as well.
Okay, so this will help identify areas of the city and our districts that the roads have issues, and this is a tool that will help identify what you can prioritize as far as resurfacing or other road or curb repairs?
Right. The idea is to get a condition rating into our asset management program where we can have, we can target our repairs more in line with what the conditions of those streets are, where we can do the most good and stretch the dollars to maximize those efforts.
And I think I asked you this morning, but is there a lot of other cities that use this technology?
There are a growing number of cities using the technology. It's a really quickly expanding technology. That's really coming into the street industry. We started looking at these software programs and the evaluations about probably 4 or 5 years ago when we started looking at them. They weren't quite to the level where we wanted to adopt at that point in time, but they've really developed, and there's some case studies out there of other cities that use them now to where we've come to a point in the technology where we feel like it's practical at this point in time and we can get a really valuable result out of it.
Okay, and the last question, does this eliminate any city manpower, city positions to do this?
Does not eliminate any city staff, no.
Okay, thanks, Austin.
Sure.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item.
Item 39, an ordinance to acquire private property for the Beltline Trail Phase 3 project.
The public hearing on number 39 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 40, an ordinance approving an interlocal agreement with the Papio Missouri River Natural Resource District and Allegiant Health for the Sorensen Trail Girard connection.
The public hearing on number 40 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, council members. Eric Williams, 8901 South 154th Street from the Papio Missouri River Natural Resources District. I am the Natural Resources Planner and I'm the project manager for this project. I appreciate the consideration of this agreement. It has been approved by both the Papio NRD Board and Allegiant to work toward the construction of a multi-use trail which will provide active transportation, recreation, and access to natural resources in our community. We have about 130 miles of trails throughout the metro area, and they generally align with the creek system from the northwest to the southeast, following the Big Papio, Little Papio, and West Papio Creek. And those have provided significant benefit to members in our community for many years. At this point, the Papio NRD has worked with the City of Omaha and other government agencies across the metro area to focus on expanding the trail network to other locations where people live, work, and play, but where they can't easily access the existing trunkline trails and where they might need safe connections from their homes and businesses to get over to things like the Keystone and Big Papio Trail, which are extremely popular. Again, most of the trails are on the creek corridors, but there are additional locations that make for great potential trail locations on railroad corridors. Several of the prominent trails in the Omaha metro area are on former railroad corridors, including the Field Club Trail, the developing Beltline Trail, which was listed on the last item, and portions of the West Papio Trail. This railroad corridor on the north side of the Emmanuel Health Facility, owned by Allegiant Health, was identified a few years ago as a potential trail location because of its historic railroad use and currently underutilized potential benefits to the community. The NRD has worked with Allegiant and with the city on the potential development of this project, and this agreement will stipulate the responsibilities of the NRD to design and construct the project, and then have the city take over the ownership and operation of the project once completed. There is additional work on a connection further west past 72nd Street to the existing Sorensen Trail, which continues down to the Keystone Trail that the City of Omaha has been investing in to extend all the way up to Cunningham. So the benefit of this location is to provide access from residents in the area safely across 72nd Street onto the existing Sorensen Trail and down to the major trail, the Keystone Trail, which provides connectivity to the rest of the metro area. This project aligns with several studies that have been done in the past and provides significant benefit using underutilized lands and providing that recreation, active transportation, and access to natural resources that I talked about earlier. So I thank you for your consideration. I thank the Parks Department for their partnership in this project and Public Works for the review of the designs that are currently in process. The current timeline after approval would be to finish the designs and hopefully have this project ready for construction in 2025 to be open for use by the public. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagel, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Eric, I don't have any questions for you, but I just wanted to, I know in serving on the Papio NRD board, the passion, if anybody was watching you today, I think you wore it on your sleeve for the work you do and the partnership that I appreciated being on the NRD board prior to being on the council. And the connections, you talked about that Beltline Trail. We were talking about that when I was still on the Papio NRD board. And I know your investment in the community and in these partnerships with the city and others, it's a great thing for the community. And thanks to you, and please thank the staff and everybody at the Papio NRD. And I know you didn't have any notes, you just did that from your heart because you really do wear it on your sleeve, and that the community's lucky to have you, and so is the NRD. So appreciate you. Can you start over again with your, no, I'm kidding, with your speech? Thanks for coming down. I'll look forward to supporting this next week. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item.
Item 41, an ordinance to approve an agreement with the Nebraska State Probation District 4A in the amount of $15,000 and to authorize funding from the City of Omaha's fiscal year 2022 Project Safe Neighborhoods Grant Award.
The public hearing on number 41 is today. Proponents, please. It's got to be to the public.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr.
Public safety
President. How
grant,
are you
right?
doing this afternoon,
Okay.
sir? I know you was in high school, was debating that Flatiron building, so I understand.
Johnny,
that.
it's gotta be the
Yes, sir.
public safety
Yes, sir. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson A. Question Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. And on number 41, would you like me to stay on topic? I agree. We would like to add the Peace Corps and that police station and the council are part of this, and to remove the Flatiron building so we can have a parking space. Thank you.
Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Next item.
Item 42, an ordinance to accept and authorize disbursement from the Nebraska Crime Commission fiscal year 2025 Project Nightlife Expansion Grant Award.
Public hearing on number 42 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 43, an ordinance to amend Omaha Municipal Code, Chapter 3, Article 1, entitled In General by creating Sections 3-12 and 3-13 to require any person or business operating or housing a functioning crypto automated teller machine or Bitcoin teller machine on its premises to post a written warning of potential fraud risks.
Public hearing on number 43 is today. Proponents, please.
John McFarland, 3601 North 156th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, Douglas County Sheriff's Office. Currently, scam is one of the fastest scams, fraudulent crimes are one of the fastest growing crimes in Omaha, Douglas County, the state of Nebraska, and the United States in general. Just want to give you some of the statistics from the past year and what's currently happening in our area. Last year, the FBI reported $12.5 billion in losses from the citizens of the United States through financial crimes and scams. A lot of these scams come back to cryptocurrency and crypto ATMs that are in our community and across the state. Last year, Nebraska had 2,195 complaints to the FBI for scams, and this resulted in $40 million in loss to the citizens of this state. Currently this year in unincorporated Douglas County, which is 1/6 of the population of the county, which does not include this incorporated city limits of Omaha, we have $1.5 million of reported loss to the citizens of unincorporated Douglas County. If you expand that to the city, we can all do the math. We're on track for one of the highest years, again, continuous growth over the last 5 years. We've seen year-on-year growth for scams. Cryptocurrency is one of the fastest growing ways to scam the citizens. Most people do not understand it. They do not know how to use it. These scammers are professionals. They are mind manipulators. They get in contact through various forms, email, letters, phone calls. They reel in a victim and get them to think that there is a urgent problem, and they coach them to a cryptocurrency ATM and direct them to deposit funds. One case this year from July, a citizen of unincorporated Douglas County who believed he had a warrant with the sheriff's office for failing to attend a jury, deposited $524,000 into a crypto ATM in Douglas County. His retirement is devastated. In April, a citizen of unincorporated Douglas County deposited $40,000 into a crypto ATM. This individual had a pop-up on their computer that directed him to call a phone number. They got a hold of a scammer there who was able to convince this victim that if they deposited that money into the crypto ATM, their computer would be fixed. And finally, another example in March, after a phone call of a person impersonating a federal government employee, the victim made 2 different deposits into 2 different crypto ATMs in Douglas County, resulting in $18,000 of their hard-earned savings lost. These scams are not only just government impersonation, such as warrant scams. They're romance scams where they hook the individual, the victim, into believing that they now have an intimate partner and they are giving that person money. Technology and phishing scams. We have real estate and employment scams. Individuals, victims believing they are now employed and have a legitimate job and deposit these funds into crypto ATMs with the hopes of receiving funds or payment for their services. By the passage of this ordinance is one of the pillars of law enforcement. Not only enforcement, rehabilitation, but education and prevention. A placard of this on these crypto ATMs is the last line of defense. We need to educate. The Sheriff's Office has been on a campaign over the last few months trying to educate the public. City passing an ordinance in this way would be a last line of defense to let potential victims know if you believe you're being scammed or before you deposit $524,000 into this ATM, call a number, check, verify if this is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Melton.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've talked to a number of different victims as well. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office. We've met and talked about how can we prevent these crimes. It's one thing, it's very difficult to prosecute these crimes because it's almost impossible to find the culprits. Once that money goes into the cryptocurrency machine, it's gone. There's no numbers. You can't trace the accounts, unlike bank accounts, which, you know, I always say there's a money trail there. When you're using a bank, the money trail ends at that cryptocurrency machine. I had a couple people who thought about coming down to testify, but they changed their mind, and really I didn't want to press them. They're embarrassed. You know, one person, a retired military, she says, I consider myself smart, like I don't fall for scams, but she really thought she missed jury duty. And she said, you know, we'd been traveling, maybe it just got thrown away. And, you know, it says on your jury duty summons, you know, you have to appear, warrant could be put out for your arrest. I mean, these are scams though, and these are people that aren't speaking broken English. They are people that sound like a deputy sheriff. They're actually using real deputy sheriff's names. And so if you were to actually log online, you could find that sheriff, that person does work for the Douglas County Sheriff. They're using their badge numbers, and they are convincing them that they have a warrant out and they need to post bond. One woman put $6,000 into a machine. Another woman, it was $3,000, but she decided to call me first because she said, just in her gut, she said it didn't feel right. And so she called my law office. Some of the other victims said if they just saw something that said this scam, or if it said no police, government agency, I don't know. Sheriff, do you have a copy of the draft? This isn't our final, so I don't necessarily want to put it up there because Omaha Police and the sheriff worked together on coming up with the right posting, but this is kind of a draft of what we would propose. If all of the victims said if they saw this at the crypto machine, their gut already told them it was wrong. If you just sit it under the Elmo, they said that it may have prevented them from putting the money in. Because if they saw that the police, the sheriff, if they were on the phone with the sheriff and they say, but I see this sign that says sheriff does not accept payment from this machine or any government agencies, that would have made them, I think, stop and really have a second thought or stop and call that number before they put the money into the machine. So I know this is something small. Actually, the sheriff's office said that they will handle the cost, so there's no cost to the city of Omaha. We're looking to put Omaha Police on one side with the sheriff on the other because we're collaborating together on this one with scam maybe at the top, I think. Councilman Hug recommended, and I like that. We put red scam at the top with that, so it really stands out. This isn't something where we want to punish businesses. And in fact, what I plan to do, and I think even the sheriff, go around and notify businesses if this passes, give them this notice. We're just asking you to post this over your cryptocurrency machine. But I think what this ordinance does is if someone refuses to do this, and we have people that are continuing to get scammed at that business, and the business is refusing to post this, then I think that's where you could really enforce this and we have a $500 fine if they don't do it. But it's something that doesn't cost the businesses anything at all. And I would think they would want to have something like this posted because these are potentially some of their customers. I mean, these are grocery stores, pharmacies, gas stations, I think vape stores, and then I heard hotels are now putting these crypto. I heard at least of some hotels. So my goal will be to go around and literally try and educate the businesses to help us educate the public. And let's really stop these scammers. Maybe at least here in Omaha, the scammers are gonna be like, you know what? Let's call people in other cities. I feel bad for them, but we only have control over our own city and county here. That would be great. I would love it if they decided to take Omaha off the list of potential scams.
Yes. And if I may, the phone number right here is a scam line that Sheriff's Office established a few months ago. I just got the numbers today. For September alone, we've had 54 calls to that phone line. Some of those phone calls are people who are actively being scammed, and they have called there. We've prevented them from being scammed with the thousands of dollars. The other ones are said, hey, I got a phone call, I got this email, I got a letter. What do you think about this? So we're already starting the education. It's already working. We're preventing people from being scammed just by advertising this phone number on some of the placards we hand out at retirement homes and stuff like this. So putting a phone number up somewhere for people to call immediately, have a response, it's gonna work.
No, I really appreciate that. I want to thank you for your efforts. And I think as I said just last Friday, somebody tried to scam my father into posting bond for me. The scammer said that I'd been in a car accident. The woman that I hit was very seriously injured, may die, and the police determined that I was texting and driving, and so they arrested me. It was Friday afternoon at 3:30. So they said if my dad didn't get the $1,000 down to the courthouse and to a bondsman, so they were going to have a bondsman come and get the money from my father and make it seem like they were at the courthouse and that they worked for the courthouse. That I was going to sit in jail until Monday. And I happened to be on an airplane, so my dad couldn't get a hold of me.
Yes.
You know, he had that gut instinct, like, this seems very weird, and why wouldn't the attorneys in Amy's office not be taking care of this? So he didn't fall for it, but he said they were very believable. They were very convincing. They had a lot of information about me and details, and obviously, you know, my dad, how else would they get my dad's personal cell phone number, you know, unless I gave it to him? So these guys are really good, and anybody can be a target at this point. And absolutely anybody could be a target. So thank you for your efforts, and I really do. This is something small, but education and prevention, I think, are the key here.
Thank you,
Thank you
Counsel.
very much. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Begley.
Thanks. Deputy, don't go too far. Thanks. Thanks, Mr. President. Good afternoon. I appreciated Sheriff Hansen was at our pre-council meeting. We talked about a few things with this. First, I'll let you answer this. Does the Douglas County Sheriff's Office ever call a citizen and say you owe money, or do you guys ever do that, solicit fines or any money from anybody?
We do not.
Okay.
Not for a warrant. No government agency, to my knowledge, will call you and say you have a warrant for your arrest. You need to pay money.
Okay, that simplifies things, but scams are happening, so people obviously don't know that. So I think it's great, whatever public media blitz that you're doing, and if this helps that's always a good thing. How many of these machines are there? Did you guys figure out how many of these things there are in Douglas County?
Last time we checked, approximately 50 in Douglas County, in all of Douglas County.
Okay, and we asked Sheriff Hansen about this, an ordinance that at least will help somebody that's coming in to give them that red alert that you could be getting scammed like people clearly are doing, as evident by what you've described today. Is this something that we need to take up in the legislature for more regulation on these, so it makes, I guess, higher barriers for people if they want to try scamming people? Is that something you guys are looking at?
Yes, we are looking at that. We would like to implement this and roll this out at the local level to have a good example of how it works and move it to the state level, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Councilman, may
please.
I intervene there, only because that's something that I was talking about, that I'm going to bring up with the legislative committee at our next legislative committee. What we're trying to do is kind of make this a pilot. We would like this to go to the legislature and make it a statewide requirement, maybe working with Nebraska State Patrol because that we could go statewide. What we're trying to do is start this in Omaha, really just to get the discussion going in the education and maybe hopefully maybe prove that it's working. And the next step is going to be to try and get somebody to carry this bill in the next session, starting in January.
Okay.
So I'll give you more information. It was an excellent question, and I forgot to mention it.
That's all right. No, thanks for
Thank you.
putting that in there. Thanks, Deputy. Appreciate your answering. Maybe a question for Mr. Kuzi.
Matt Kuzi, Law Department.
Good afternoon, Matt. Is there anything that the city can do if they identify somebody that is scamming these souls that were mentioned here today? How do we prosecute this?
Sure, these types of offenses that have been talked about today, assuming that they occur here in Douglas County, and it sounds like from the examples that have been mentioned today, they could be charged. There's a number of things that people could be charged with. Theft by deception, criminal impersonation, those types of various felony charges, depending on the amounts, and the amounts that we've talked to today would certainly be felonies, but off the top of my head and delving back into my past, those are the two types of crimes that I could see a prosecutor charging someone with, would be those types of offenses.
And have we had any luck in prosecuting these that you can recall? Are they hard to find and prosecute?
They are hard to find and they are hard to prosecute. I suspect that that's getting easier over time with improvements in technology and being able to track things down. I haven't done this work for 8 years, but back in my day, it was harder because it was harder to find the person who was doing it, committing the criminal act themselves. Were they here? Were they somewhere else? Were they overseas? Things like that. But with improvements in technology, I think that gap has been shortened now where it's probably, I don't want to say easier, but there's better evidence out there that people can now use to prosecute people who commit these types of offenses.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Kuzi. And I guess raising awareness clearly to people that have been victims of this, this is a good first step, and I look forward to working on the committee later to try to identify what we can do to help this maybe at the state level to help other cities that clearly it's not an Omaha thing, it must be going on around the country, and they can get nailing or right to somebody's phone. It's pretty easy to scam people. So thanks for being here today. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Yes, this question is for the law department. Was this ordinance, was it discussed in the law committee for review before coming to city council today?
Matt Kuzi, Law Department. This ordinance came through a request to law that was sent to the Law Department from Councilmember Melton requesting this ordinance, just as many other ordinances and resolutions come from you individual council members.
So again, it was not presented to the law committee prior to being presented to us?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. And secondly, the vote for this today, based upon what we're reading here, indicates that this is punishable with a $500 fine. Who will receive this fine?
Matt Kuzi, Law Department. Again, you are correct. It is a criminal offense. This is a criminal offense. At pre-council, it was mentioned that it's very similar to the spray paint warnings that hardware stores and other stores are required to put up. The person who would be offending would be the person who owns, runs the business and does not have the sign up.
Okay, and a vote yes today for this. How soon will this be executed?
Today is only the public hearing. Next week will be the vote. Assuming the mayor signs it, it will go into effect 15 days.
Okay, and we have not done any education at all at this point through business owners to kind of get a weigh-in on what their thoughts are or any of that prior to today?
The law department has not.
So if this was voted on, yes, and the mayor was in agreement with that and it goes into law in 15 days, say someone goes into a business that has not posted this up, and this behavior that we're trying to avoid, maybe we have not approached them with the sign to be posted. Would they be subject to, I mean, are we making any provisions? Are we doing a 30-day grace period? I mean, what are we doing here? Because I'm not sure how we're implementing it. I think this idea is great, but I'm concerned about the implementation of the new law and how it will be applied.
There's no provision that was requested or put into the ordinance, and I guess I'd have to delve back into the old axiom when it comes to the businesses that may or may not know about this. I'd have to repeat a line that we've all heard before, which is ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Hood.
I just want to thank Councilmember Melton for bringing this forward and putting the work and effort into it. It's not easy to spend a lot of time to make a positive change, as this ordinance will. So thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Ms. Johnson, you bring up a good point. Omaha Police, it's kind of similar to, I think, the previous mask mandate. You know, police aren't running out trying to fine people for violations. What we want to do is make people aware of it. I don't think Omaha Police intend to go around and try and fine people for not having the sign. I think what they're going to do, though, once they've made them aware of it, and if somebody's getting scammed at the business, then I think that's when we bring the fine into play. That, hey, if you don't have the sign and somebody gets scammed, then you're going to have to pay too. And I think that'll be an incentive. But you make an excellent point, because most ordinances just go into effect after 15 days. And we do have the ability to amend that, so we can start going around for a couple months and making businesses aware. So I'd be more than willing before next week, Mr. Kuzy, if you could draft an amendment. Ms. Johnson's point is well taken and received, and I think 90 days would probably be better.
And your amendment that you're requesting is 90 days?
It'll go into effect in 90 days from the date of passing.
So change the 15.
Just change 15 to 90,
Okay.
yes, that's it.
I can get that done by next week.
Well, no, but it'll give 90 days for Omaha Police and the sheriff, make sure they have the sign the way they want it. We have the ordinance going into effect, and then I think in those 90 days, that's when we go out and do an education campaign for the businesses, which I know the sheriff is more than willing to do. So that's when we'll be going out saying, hey, if you don't have this done, and that's what we want to do, is build that awareness first. And that we have to educate the business owners first in order to educate the public. So I think if Ms. Johnson thinks 90 days, that probably is a good time frame. Deputy, if you could, do you have an opinion on that? Because again, we're not going to go run out to find businesses. It's businesses that are refusing to put the sign up that we want some kind of enforcement.
I think that's correct. The sheriff's office, and I've had discussions with the sheriff and my chain of command about this. We're not looking to go out and enforce and issue criminal citations for businesses that are not aware of this. If it's a continued problem, then you have continued enforcement. But I believe most employees of the businesses aren't even aware of what these machines do and what they're capable of.
Right.
So if it's an education opportunity where you can talk to the business owners, the managers, say, hey, here's the city ordinance, this is what it needs, here's the placard, and by the way, the sheriff's office can provide that to you free of charge, and we'll even tell you where it should go on the ATM, something along those lines.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, I think that'll give us some time to get out there to those businesses and make that happen. Some of them are chains, so it'll be a lot easier. You know, we can go to the Walgreens has them, so it's easier to go to the Walgreens and say, hey, you need to distribute these to all of your Walgreens in the city limits, and we know that'll get done. Some of the smaller individual owners of stores, I think that's going to be where we need to take the time to go out and tell them.
and the sheriff's office has had discussions with some of the larger businesses in town regarding these concerns with the crypto ATMs. But there are websites out there. I was just on one earlier today. You can just type in Omaha, Nebraska, and it'll tell you where every crypto ATM in the city is located, the address, and the business name. So if we need a list, it'll take a few keystrokes, and we can find out exactly where all of these are, and then we can just have public information.
And I think what we could probably just mail, I wouldn't mind mailing them a notice, and I would cover that. I'm not asking for the city to cover that, but that's also something we could do, which we could shorten the time if we were willing to do that. So why don't we have some more discussion about that between now and next week, because we're just changing number of days, and I'll put it through the council. But I do think more than 15 is probably appropriate.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm not doing 90 days right now.
Right, why don't we talk about that, and then I'll notify you tomorrow, Mr. Kuzi, of what number we want to put in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's no further lights. Next item.
Item 44, K-Tech Specialty Coatings, Inc. appeals the rejection of their bid from August 28th, 2024 for City of Omaha liquid de-icing material.
Council members, this is a bid rejection appeal which does not have a public hearing. We just need a motion to either allow or deny the appeal. We'll hear from the appellant company and maybe hear from the city as well. We have the appealer by Zoom. Mr. Preston, we'll get you off mute here in a minute. Give us one more minute here. It's not quite off mute, I don't think. Okay, try that.
Yes, thank you, council members, for giving me some time to state my case this afternoon. My name is Denver Preston. I'm the National Sales Manager for K-Tech Specialty Coatings. We manufacture highway de-icer. It's a special product that the city of Omaha has never used, but they have shown interest in using the product. We have talked with members of the Public Works Department about this. So due to their interest, we went ahead and submitted a bid on the 28th of August. And when we submitted the bid, we also submitted a copy of our bid bond, which we had in our possession. The problem here is that we had to have that bid bond mailed, physically mailed within a 10-day period of time. When we sent our courier to the post office to mail the bid bond, all intentions were to overnight the bid bond, and that did not happen. So what happened is the bid bond arrived, I believe, on September 9th, and it was supposed to be there according to the 10-day period on September 7th. And so in a nutshell, we're just asking for grace on this. We would love to have the city of Omaha as a customer. We'd love to have them trying our product, but if our bid is rejected over this, technical issue, then that may not happen, for another year. So that, in a nutshell, quickly is why we appealed. And we would just like the council to approve our appeal and allow it to be, go on in the process to be considered as being awarded. Therefore, the Public Works Department could go ahead and give our product a try.
Okay, thank you. Stay close. I think we have some lights on for some questions, but next we'll hear from the city.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Bloom, City Law. Unfortunately, this is a case that city code is pretty clear as far as, and we don't have a whole lot of discretion. All bids over $20,000 are required to be accompanied by a bid security that's at least 5%. In this case, their bid was over $20,000. As such, they're required to submit a bid bond or substitute. Since we went to the electronic system, we have allowed a bit of a grace as far as with submitting the original bid bond. Originally, back when we did all paper bids, it was required that we had the original bid bond at the time in which the bids were opened. We've added a 7 calendar day grace period so that they could submit an electronic copy and then shortly after submit the original bid bond. The reason why we require the original bid bond is we want to make sure that we have a bid bond with wet signatures on it so that it takes away a defense from the surety should we have to take action on the bid bond, which by admission is very rare. Now, with this, unfortunately, the way that the code is written, it states that failure to submit the original bid security within 7 calendar days of bid opening shall result in the rejection of the bid. So we don't really have discretion in this matter. It's just that the bid is rejected, unfortunately, if we don't get the original bid bond. So the bid was opened on August 28th, and the original bid security was received on September 9th at 9:25 a.m. Given that was more than 7 calendar days, the bid was rejected for failure to submit the original.
Thank you. Now we'll go to council member questions. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Attorney Bloom, you provided excellent information regarding the stance that the city is taking as it relates to this rejection. Where is this at? Where can this language or this statute be found?
Sure. This is in Omaha Municipal Code, Section 10-103, and the specific section of 10-103 is Section B, where it lists the submission of the electronic bid security as well as the requirement for the original bid security within 7 calendar days. In addition, in the bid documents, in the instructions to bidders, it is in Section 2, whereas it's specifically Section 2.1.1 and 2.1.2 that spell out that you need to have a electronic version as well as the original security submitted within 7 calendar days.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Preston, you will, I'm sure, not be surprised to hear that this event or this type of an event or occurrence has happened in the past, and this council and previous councils have been very consistent in applying it equally to all. It does appear to be a technicality, but it is a technicality that is a requirement of the bid. Therefore, unfortunately, I'm going to have to make the motion to deny your appeal based upon the information that we have, as well as knowing that, as I said, in the past there have been very similar experiences, and this council's been very consistent in those rulings, and to set a precedent at this point would not make, I think, be a good judgment. So I'll make the motion to appeal. Or, I'm sorry, motion to deny the appeal.
I see no further lights. Okay, no further lights, roll call.
Rowe. Yes. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
Yes.
Hug.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
And Festerson is absent. Motion passed 6-0. Non-action items, items 45 through 64, do not require a public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on an agenda for consideration.
Oh, sorry, that's me. I lost my page. Thank you. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:53.